everyone, it's Janette here from Case Flower School, and I'm back with another top tip. So today we're going to talk about tulips. Tulips from Amsterdam. So definitely the touch of spring, brings spring in the air when you think about tulips. But the mad thing about it is tulips are available the whole year round. Everybody thinks that you'll only get them from end of January, February and early March. But because they're the national flower of Holland, they are available the whole year round. So if you were getting married in August, September, October and you wanted tulips, it is possible to get them. But listen, it's going to cost you, okay? When a flower is out of season, it is going to be more expensive. Now depending, are you buying them in commercially or are you buying them from your local flower shop? If you go to your local flower shop, chances are you're buying them in small bunches like I have here, and they're sold in bunches of 10. Sometimes you can buy them in 10 all the same colour, which can be lovely as well. I personally love the mixed coloured ones, okay? So that's just say 10 tulips. Probably when you count them, there might only be 9 in the bunch by the way, but you'll be charged for 10. If you're buying them in commercially, wholesale, 50 is the minimum that you can buy. So that would be your 50 tulips. And they mightn't always be wrapped individually in 10s like mine are. Sometimes the brown paper might be just wrapped around the 50 bunches, but within that 50 tulips there possibly is 5 bunches of 10, but they may not be wrapped individually in plastic. And again, you have the choice with the 50. Do you want 50 all the one colour? If you were doing a wedding and you want all white tulips or all pink tulips, it is brilliant that you can buy them all the one colour. Or again, like I have here today, you could have bought the 50, which I did, obviously 5 bunches of 10 in the mixed colours. Now tulips are not a great lasting flower, but they're normally a less inexpensive flower, and they're a flower that flower shops would buy in because customers just treat themselves. You know the way you think about flowers and people buying flowers as a present or as a gift for people? Well, for somebody else is what I meant to say. But when it comes to tulips and daffodils, I find the same. People are inclined to buy, you're in the supermarket, you're passing the flower shop, and that's why if you're a flower shop, always have buckets outside and bunches outside, kind of impulse, what I call is cash and wrap kind of. And customers going by, they see the bunches of tulips, they see the sun trying to come through, split through that sky there today, in between the lashings of rain or something. And again, you kind of say, oh my God, isn't the tulips gorgeous? And people will just buy a bunch of tulips to treat themselves. Now, when you're selling, so now I'm going to talk about kind of from a selling point of view. Whether you're a flower shop or even somebody with a studio business, whatever, and you're starting off, what you need to do is educate your customers about the flowers. What you also need to do is show off that the information that you know. So if you're in a flower shop, why don't you start selling flower food? Or what some people do, possibly not with the tulips, but with some of the more expensive bouquets and bunches, they'd always sellotape a sachet of flower food to the outside. Do you know that way? And the thing is, the amount of people that I see, when they take the plastic off the flowers and that's sellotaped, they throw that in the bin and all. So make sure you explain to your customer the advantage of flower food and what it can do. There is, excuse me, there is writing on it, but it's so tiny, and sure, I'm as blind as a bat, I wouldn't be able to read it. But it is also possible from a marketing point of view to get all your sachets of flower food branded, like with your name and again some instructions on it. But again, if you're selling that bunch of flowers and you might say to the customer, is this a gift or is it for yourself? And they say, God no, it's just for myself, just to put on the table in the kitchen to brighten it up or whatever. Why don't you say to them, have you tried flower food? If you put flower food into the water, especially if it's a glass vase, there's nothing as bad as a glass vase and green water on the inside and a big ring and a scum around the top of it, that way? Where if you put the flower food into the water, it'll stop the bacteria growing, it will stop the water discolouring, and not indefinitely, but normally tulips are only going to last about a week or so, so this works out perfect. The other thing to tell them about tulips, and the amount of people that are even in the flower business that don't realise this, tulips are one of the only flowers that continue to grow even after they're picked. So if you take, like say roses, and you buy them and they're 40 centimetres, 2 weeks later they're still 40 centimetres. Or lilies, you buy them and they're 70, 80 centimetres, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, they're still only 70 or 80 centimetres. Where with tulips, when you buy them, a week later, actually within 3.5 days, 3 to 4 days, it normally happens, they grow 1 to 2 inches, which is 3 to 4 centimetres they can actually grow. Most people don't realise it. So when you're selling a bunch of tulips to your customer, or even for yourself, this is a little bit of knowledge, and you say to your customer, okay, we've sold them the flower food, okay? Say to your customer, listen, when you bring them home, remove the plastic. Why do you remove the plastic? It allows the ethylene gas to escape, you know, that way, and it'll keep them fresher for longer. They're going to last that little bit longer. Remove the elastic band. Why? Well, if there's an elastic band around the end of the stems, it is going to restrict the water going up through the stem. These are fairly straight. That one's kind of tilting over there. But you know the way sometimes you might buy the tulips and they're all kind of like bent and crooked? What you can do to re-straighten them, presuming they haven't been in water yet. So they've come from the wholesalers and they're in the box, they've been out watered, they're dry packed, and they've been out watered possibly for 24 hours at this stage. If you get a sheet of brown paper and you wrap them like a sausage roll, tightly and securely, wrap that around it and put a little piece of sellotape on it. Cut the ends, place it in water. After about an hour and a half, 2 hours, when you remove the paper, they'll all stand back up straight again. I have a broken one here, that's why that one's falling over. So they're all standing back up straight again, ignore that broken one. But normally what happens with tulips is they go towards the light. So in my kitchen I'd find at home, I have a skylight. So you can see my tulips, like they literally grow towards the light. Possibly in the second day you can actually see them growing. Well, maybe in your kitchen or room, whatever it is, the window is over to the side. So naturally what will happen is the tulips will go towards the light. So when people say like about straightening them up, you know the way, the best thing to do is just turn the vase and again they'll go back towards the light again, you know what I mean, that's the best thing to do. But I often find with tulips they're inclined to do an aerobics class, they're going up, they're going out, they're going out, they're moving all over the place. If there's a fire in the room, they move towards the heat. When the sun comes in the window the next day, they move towards the window. The next day or that night you light the fire, you close down the blinds on the window and they go back towards the fire. So they kind of move, they do the aerobics class and that can kind of like wear them out. But advise your customer is to watch when they put them into a glass vase, how much they are up over the top of the vase. And say to them, watch them on the third day. They will be up another 1.5 inches, 2 inches up over the top of the glass vase. It was going to happen anyway. It wasn't anything to do with the flower food. This happens anyway whether they use the flower food or not. But normally the customer is absolutely fascinated by this. And they come back to you and they don't know whether it's the magic of the flower food or the magic of the flower shop, but they're absolutely amazed by it. And they're coming back to tell you, God, yeah, that did happen, you're right. So again, educate yourself about your flowers that you can pass that information on to your customer. In a flower arrangement, when you use tulips in a flower arrangement, they're still going to continue to grow in the oasis. So if you cut your flower and you have all your flowers, like I'm going to talk about our classes, number 1 in the middle, 3 around the number 1, 3 in between, and you have all your tulips absolutely perfect. And in between them you have your Germany or your baby carnations or your roses or whatever other flowers you decided to use. And everything is perfect flower placement, perfect shape, brilliant. And next of all, 2 days later, the third day, the tulips are sticking out like horns, antennas, flags, whatever way you want to describe it, because they're going to continue to grow the 1.5 to 2 inches and the arrangement has lost its shape completely. Sometimes in a flower arrangement, to stop them moving, because in a vase of water, as I said, they move towards the light and the heat. And then when maybe you decide to make a flower arrangement out of them, imagine you make this gorgeous little posy or a little basket, a country basket of flowers, and suddenly all your tulips are gone to the west, going towards the window. So what some florists do is they use the stem wire. You may have seen me do this with the Germany. It's not a very popular thing, but again, it's nice to be aware of it. They use a 22 gauge wire. They insert it into the top of the head and wrap it down the stem. And what that does is stops it moving. And it actually helps the tulips to last longer. Because they're not doing the aerobics class anymore and they're staying in the exact position, I find you get an extra day or 2 out of them. But on the third day, it's a bit like Jesus Christ. On the third day, they'll rise again and they'll grow on the third day. And normally what happens is the wire that you have pierced into the head is left down here and it's like the tulip grows up past the wire and it's up here and it's wobbling and it'll start moving towards the light and the heat again. They're absolutely a fascinating flower. So listen, go down to your local flower shop, treat yourself to a bunch of tulips, see how you get on. And by the way, you cut the ends, you stick them in a vase of water and that's it. Watch them grow. Any comments, any questions, put them in the comments below. Have a great day.